Three, two, one, and welcome to this edition of Boxing Magazine. Again, here we're at the Borgata Hotel in Atlantic City today. Um, a lot to talk about. And if you watch this show for the last like 20 years or so, maybe more than that actually, you've seen the guy that's to my left here. He's been with me for a very long time. He's gone on to really become one of the say one of the experts or the one of the top what do you call it, Robert? You in the boxing. He runs the boxing stuff. Yeah, let's say it like that. If you go to the garden, if you go to the big fight somewhere, you see him. But it feels good because he started we started back to what 1997, 98, somewhere back then, maybe what almost 20 years. So and we've covered a lot of fights together over the years and boxing. And so Rob Scott's been with me for a long time. I'm glad to have him here with us. And we're going to get into that because we got a lot of fighting to talk about, a lot of fighting, a lot of boxing. We're going to talk about the Wilder fight. We're going to talk about the Canelo and whoever he fought, because it don't really matter to me because the guy was nobody anyway. But anyway, we're going to talk about Canelo. And then we're going to talk about what happened with the Charlo brothers in the what was it, at the arena, Barclay Arena? Barclay Arena, and talk about that controversial as well. But before we do that, we had the CEO, well, the partner of Provide TV and CEO of Harris Hayes Productions. To my right is Harris Hayes, and Harris has been also. You watched watched us on Provide. Harris been there for the last few years. We've been together. We shot some real good pieces. We've had some after Ali's death. We had a real good interview with with his friend Muhammad. We had a fantastic interview with the Hall of Fame Larry Hazard, Commissioner of Boxing. I ran Barkley as well as some others. So we've had some good shows on Provide. And we're looking to bring even more in the coming years now. And Harris is here though. One thing, we're going to talk about the boxing, as I said, but he's here now to introduce a new company that he's formed that I think is pretty interesting. It's called the Global Fan Draft. So Harris, you want to tell us a little about that?
Absolutely. Global Fan Draft, Roy, is a service to the sports and entertainment industry. It allows the sports and entertainment industry to have the deepest engagement that they can have with their fans by drafting them to be officially a part of them. So this recognizes fans for the first time in history. Fans have never been recognized. They've never been rewarded for printing money for sports. Fans are fanatical. They're in the stands with it's 12 degrees outside and one color on one side and no shirt. And they've never been rewarded for that. And so, I formed this company, Global, for the fanaticism of the fans so that they can be inclusive in the actual organization or franchise or team that they love.
Now, is that the separation from of Global Fan Draft from Fan Draft, DraftKings, and that's another one I match.
Yeah, FanDuel.
Like FanDuel. Yeah. Right.
Well, those organizations are gambling organizations.
Okay.
And so Global Fan Draft is the exact opposite. Social media platform that just recognizes fans. We're not interested in gamblers. We're not interested in groupies. We're interested in fans. We're interested in the people that, as we said, are so fanatical about their team, about their sport, that they never miss an event. They're always there. You see them on television. You see them here. You see them there. Representing whatever entity it is. This is what Global Fan Draft was formed for, to have the deepest engagement with those type of fans around the world. You have fans that, for instance, in Africa, the NBA just played 3 years ago. They just played their first NBA game in Africa. Mm-hmm. And so, you have fans in Africa that they can't watch because they don't have internet most of the time. A lot of the countries don't have internet, and some of them only have it for a couple of hours a day. But they hear about the NBA teams. They know who Michael Jordan is. They know who Kobe Bryant is. They know who Steph Curry is and Kevin Durant and LeBron James. And this gives them an opportunity, so when they actually do have internet, they can go on our app, and they can go to the team that they love, that they hear about so much or whatever, and that they want to represent, and they can put up a picture of them, with their GOAT. The GOAT might have on a LeBron James jersey or something, and that picture might get them drafted to be part of the Los Angeles Lakers fan team.
Okay, so in this world, we know that basketball, of course, is big and become very big in China. The NFL has become big in the UK
Absolutely.
now. So these sports now, everything is coming global.
Absolutely.
Like boxing. The world of boxing has been global
Absolutely.
for a long time.
Absolutely. It
So,
started the global trend.
It started
actually.
the global trend, exactly.
Yes.
So now here we are, and you have something. But now, if somebody wants to get into global draft, what do they need to do to get the global draft?
Global Fan Draft, all you have to do is just go to our website. We're going to be launching our actual app. We have an app in Google Play and in iTunes right now, which is our beta trial app. That's the Best Sorority Fraternity Challenge app. It's not an app that we're actually facilitating or trying to monetize, but it's actually an app that for our tech team to be able to scale different versions of our apps. And so, but our website, www.globalfandraft.com, and you can subscribe to our website. And then once you give us your subscription, once the app is released, you'll get it first, no matter where you are in the world. And as we said, because we're a global entity, people all over the world are going to be requesting this app. So obviously we can't send an app the first day that it's released to everybody in the world. So if you order it now, you'll be getting the app first.
And your subscription base, as you was telling me earlier, is up to over 4,000 now.
Yeah.
With no promotion, no advertising.
Almost 4,000. Yeah. I mean, it's been a phenomenal situation for us. It's something that you and I talked about in terms of we know who fans are. You know, that's one of the things that being in this segment with you and Rob, we know what fans are all about. And so we know that if fans can be recognized about something, you know, that they're going to have an appreciation for that. But, you know, I took meetings with, you know, some of the leagues and some of the actual professional teams, and they were like, you know, this is good, but we want to know that it's going to work. How do we know that it's going to work? You know, and so now we actually have proof of concept because we have people coming to our website and just subscribing, and we don't have any advertising. So it's for, you know, it's unheard of in the tech space. Actually, we're making tech history with Global Fan Draft.
Okay.
So
well, now you brought something for us that you wanted to
absolutely. I wanted to thank you first and foremost for your participation and your support with Global Fan Draft. And so we talked about it off camera, and we agreed that you would be the ambassador for boxing for Global Fan Draft. And we're going to take meetings with, you know, all of the sanctioning bodies and get them involved so that we can draft fans to be a part of the IBF, the WBC, the WBA, and so forth. And so I wanted to thank you, you know, for you know, taking that position, and also for your offer to have Roro Productions promote Global Fan Draft at all of your upcoming boxing cards. And so, you know, that's I can't thank you enough for that. And we're making history. You know, this is something that I had a conversation with the CEO of one of the entities that we were talking about, one of the gambling entities. And we were talking, and they approached me, and we were talking about how Global Fan Draft is a phenomenon to the degree that when we first started thinking about it, it was based on the fact that we want to give the fans something. And this is something that sports never thought about, because we're music, we're television, we're the World Cup, we're the Olympics. And these organizations, all they think about is actually selling tickets, you know.
Oh, well, that's what it's about.
Exactly.
It's the monetary.
Exactly. Exactly. But they never thought about giving the fans anything. So they didn't think of it. But I was thinking about giving the fans something. And so now we have something that all fans have to come to our website to see who got selected, who got drafted, you know. So it makes us a search engine like Google, and it also makes us an advertising platform.
Okay.
So, you know, we're just thankful to have a partnership with you and Roro Productions to start this out, because this is historic. So I just wanted to give you the first scale model of the Global Fan Draft sweatsuit.
There you go.
Here it is the Global Fan Draft boxing sweatsuit. And I have a shirt for you too, Rob. And
my name on the back.
With Foreman on the back.
Oh, okay.
And Rob, I'll see you. I'll get you one with your name and everything on it too. We didn't know Rob was going to be with us.
For Rob, though.
Absolutely, we got a shirt for Rob right now, and then I'll get you some upscale merchandise later on, because Roy actually called me at the last minute and said, "Let's get Rob." And I said, "Absolutely." Rob is an expert when it comes to everything boxing. So, it's a privilege and an honor to be here with him as well.
We're looking forward to that. And
Absolutely.
now, we're going to segue
Yes.
good way into the boxing. Rob,
Yes.
You've having become over the last, as I say, 20 years or so, the expert, not just in the media part, but in watching the boxing matches as well. And we're gonna let's go backwards, but then before we come forward. Canelo is the new name in the last, I guess, since Mayweather's retired, it's kind of become more Canelo. You hear more Canelo, more Canelo, more Canelo. The Charlo brothers, well, in particular, Jamil, I always have a problem with which, but
Jamil and Jamal.
Okay, Jamil and Jamal. And Jamil got beat last night, right?
Yes.
Jamil got beat last night. And then I've met both guys. They come to the fight that we produce in Houston down there in Texas, and they always are very, bullish guys, but at the same time.
It's funny to say that because I'm actually drawing a blank right now. Which one did you?
Yeah, I don't know. Well, they know which one.
The one with the line is it?
Yeah.
Because they're so closely together. When you say twins, they're the epitome of twins. They look just like each other. They fight just like each other, and they bring the same sort of intensity, just like each other. So it's hard to differentiate the two. The only thing that you can really differentiate the two is that one is a middleweight at this point right now, and one is still a junior middleweight. So.
Okay, and with that, it's something you and we've been saying for the years. Okay, controversial decision, he loses his title, and we've always talked about this thing where they're going to come with, you say, black eye in boxing, right? Does this become another black eye in boxing? When you supposedly had probably 25 million people watching this fight on Fox News channel last night, and most people watched it and thought that Charlo had actually won this fight, but we know that that's not what happened.
Well, I think that with them and his circumstance and losing, it becomes a thing of like, it's not a black eye for boxing, put it that way. People are only as good as their last fight.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you talk about that black eye for boxing, it happens, but people forget. Once that rematch happens, or once his next fight happens, it sort of. So right now, yes, he's going through what he's going through, and for that matter, a lot of people are saying or up in arms about how it was a bad decision. But and he's actually said that he's going to file grievance and everything. But you and I know that nothing's going to come from that. If anything, hopefully they'll ask for a rematch.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I doubt it. It wasn't that much of a controversy to the point where I feel that it should be just mad. It was a rematch. I mean, I think more what the WBC's decision to create a rematch between Fury and Wilder would be more justified than this one last night.
It's this thing where you say, I thought Charlo won. You thought the other guy won.
No, I thought Charlo won.
No, I'm just saying that's because that's what creates sometimes for boxing.
Yeah.
That's what makes it what it is.
Yeah.
The idea, and then we can go into the Wilder and the Fury fight as well, because it was a fight that just about 95% of the people that I met, I know seen that fight, actually thought that Tyson Fury won that match, even with 2 knockdowns. People, I've never seen a fight where a guy gets knocked down twice in a fight. When a guy that seemed like he was out. I mean, this guy was literally out. I don't know why. It did like he went to sleep, but you got to report it kind of 10. People, and the referee took his time. I don't think that's what happened, but.
Oh, but even with that, there was the controversy about the so-called lone cap.
Mm-hmm.
They basically was equating that to Mike Tyson and Buster Douglas. But I think what people don't understand is that when the fighters get knocked down, they think that the count starts then.
Right.
No, the referee has to take the opponent, make sure that he's in the corner. So he has certain things to think about before he goes to that 1-2.
He picks up the count.
He picks up. I was just about to say, and they have somebody that's doing the 1-2 and everything. So
it's not like a referee can start from 1-2. He's picking up a count.
Right. They want you to go 1-2 right when their butts hit the ground.
Yes.
And sometimes it's not that simple.
So it actually becomes sometimes a 12 count because of the longevity of it. But the guy that's at the counter, the guy that's, when the guy hits the floor, he starts counting. Referee picks up the count, and the referee says, hey, he can't, if the guy is saying 7, the referee can't say 6 or he can't say 8. He has to say 7.
Well, right. Boxing is a beauty contest, and the beauty is in the eye of the beholder. There's so many people that I've heard will have a problem with somebody because they say that he counted too slow, or he counted too fast. So it's like it all depends on, and especially if it has something to do with the person that you were rooting for.
Right.
That changes the whole tide of opinion right there, because people tend the people that thought that Fury won or that Wilder lost, rather, they already had Fury in their mind to begin with, in many cases. But also, I mean, let's face it. I mean, me personally, I had Fury winning the fight, and like you said, 2 knockdowns.
Right.
You have it's a 12-round fight, so it's hard for you to sit up and justify that he won that fight. He didn't win the fight, but at the same time, like I said, if you want to call it a black eye for boxing, it's a black eye for boxing right now until they get back in the ring again. When they get back in the ring again, it'll wipe the slate for you.
This is the thing, Harris. You've been around this sport as long as I have been over the years. You worked with Steve Littles, who was a good friend of yours on top of you managing him as well. But the sport of boxing is as broad as related. It's not related. It's always it's a beauty contest.
Right.
So when you get a guy who becomes a fan favorite, let's say, like right now, I guess Canelo, again, I keep going back to him, but he might be the fan favorite now. You know what I mean? Everybody seems to be. He's got this big deal with the DAZN network now. They're paying him a lot of money. Is boxing depending on a guy like Canelo to keep the strength that Floyd Mayweather maybe carried, or Manny Pacquiao carried for a number of years, and even many people thought Adrian Broner would. We'll get to him as well, but many people thought Adrian Broner had a chance to become that same person as well. But what do you see that part of it being?
I think that every sport has its darling. You have to have it. And that's what makes the sport. You have to have that one person that stands out from everybody, that can be promoted, that represents the entire
Michael Jordan,
LeBron now. But I think that that's what they're looking for. I think that, me personally, I think that's what in the fight last night. I think that they didn't want this guy Charlo to be a danger to Canelo. So they got him out of the way. I didn't see the fight close at all. I mean, and I respect Rob greatly, but I didn't see, from what I saw Charlo be the aggressor throughout the fight. I saw Harrison only throw counter punches. He was only scoring by countering.
I'm not saying, not to cut you off, I'm not saying that he won.
Okay.
I agree with you. I do think that he won the fight. But what I'm saying is that, like you said, that he had his detractors before he came in the ring, meaning Charlo.
Right.
Even after the fight, there were so many people that were saying that, Charlo was exposed and so on and so forth. And my thing is this: when you speak about a fighter like a Canelo, who you want to make a darling, and that's fine, and you want to put him on his pound for pound list, but you can't sit up here. I can't give you credit off of something that you might do. I got to give you credit off of something that you've done. Okay. You can say that Charlo's not in his, but at the same time, the Charlo brothers deserve a chance to prove themselves.
Right.
They deserve more of a chance than you going in there with Rocky Fielding. That's my point.
And I get what you said too, because you said, what you actually said was that the Tyson Fury fight, was more pertinent as a rematch than that fight, and then I agree with that, because you're talking about heavyweights. The heavyweight division is always more exciting.
Well, no, especially lately, it just seems like within the last couple of years, these bad decisions, which we've always had it in boxing, but these bad decisions, people utter the words, "This is the worst decision I've ever seen in my life."
Yeah, right.
And it's like, wait, it was a bad decision, but God seen it.
Not true. True.
That's nonsense.
That's true.
I mean? And so what I'm saying, in comparison, I think the Fury Wilder decision was a worse decision than last night's decision. That's my point.
Okay.
And this is what I get when these things like this happen. I get people call me middle of the night, and as you as well.
Oh, yeah.
They got their opinion on this thing. And my opinion is this: You know, I've been in this sports for about 40 something years, grew up in it. So I really have sometimes I know the business of this sport. And the guy called me last night and he says, well, you know, what do you think? And I said to me, and this is y'all don't want to look for lawsuits or anything else, but it sometimes seems like some of these promoters do work that they kind of, their hands extend further than what most people think.
Yeah.
This was an East Coast fight, okay? So who would say that, whether it be Top Rank, Golden Boy, Eddie Hearns, K2, anybody else that has an interest in the guys that these two guys could fight would want to see them out of the way. But it would seem to me, with a decision like this, that sometimes there's always something you pull the sheet off, and you find out it was more than just the idea that these two guys fought, and this guy should have won the match, and he didn't win it. They've had investigations that's brought down a lot of people in the sport in the past. There are certain judges that they put in these fights that you wonder, how this guy, he judged this fight or she judged this fight last year, and it was a horrible decision, but yet here she is again. The NFL is kind of smart, and they have the capability. You get referees on these game television sometimes, you see some of the worst calls in the world, NBA too. So what do? They don't kick them out the sport. They don't even fine them. They don't ban them. What they do is they take them off of ESPN, they take them off of Fox News Network, CBS, and they'll make them work the small again. When I say that, the major shows,
like the minor leagues.
Basically the minor, the teams that's 1-9 and nobody cares. Okay, so it doesn't matter. But they're not going to get the New England Patriots and the Philadelphia Eagles game. You know what I mean? Because that's on modern television. Boxing is the only one that a year ago, a person does, 6 months ago, does a horrible judging, and that person comes right back, and then the guy is on another major fight next time. Why? Because this person has a history of being one of the most lousiest judges you ever seen in the sport, but yet they keep coming. Teddy Atlas went on a rant, I think it was about a couple of weeks ago. I forget exactly what fight it was.
Teddy ran.
But Teddy's always on the rant. Yeah, it's always on the rant.
Exactly.
But and this is another one. I'm sure they come Monday morning, they'll have him on ESPN, and Teddy will be having dinner with these guys, and I'm not saying that don't happen, because there are some times that envelopes are passed, and I don't care what you think, and it happens in all of these sports. I've had an opportunity to be a boxing promoter, boxing manager, a sports agent in the past, and trust me, I've seen crooked things in all of these sports. But the problem is that with boxing, it just seems to continue to happen in what people think is a bad thing for boxing.
I have to say this, and supervising officials and being an official myself, people think that the job of a referee, people think the job of a judge is easier than what it actually is.
Mm-hmm.
It's easy for you to sit back at home, and I mean, don't get it twisted. There are a lot of fights, I guess, for lack of a better way of saying it, like Stevie Wonder can see who won a certain fight. But there's other fights where it's all a matter of opinion.
Sure.
I mean, Mayweather's been getting beat up because they say he runs, and you and I know he doesn't run. It's just that he doesn't fight the fight that you want him to fight. And so when he doesn't fight the fight that you want him to fight, then all of a sudden he's garbage. He's not a good fighter, and that's not the case, because bottom line, he's a winner.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's just not taking that punch. And I always said this, like, even about like a Mayweather, where it's like, if you're gonna sit up there and you, like, granted, the fans are paying to see you put on a show and fight in some way, shape, or form. But at the same time, for him to go out there, he was the pound for pound best. Take his chin out there just to appease the fans, and he would be the pound for pound, but he'd be the pound for pound fool.
Exactly.
That's right. Exactly.
I mean, he should, that's not something that he should do. You're supposed to go out there and your job is to win.
Right.
I mean, like when you compare styles, you compare, I want Manny Pacquiao to win that. I want Floyd runs, and so no. When they fought, Floyd did exactly what Floyd does every night out. Nothing different.
That's right.
It was Manny's job, and it was Freddie Roach's job to come up with a game plan to eliminate Floyd's style. But who, in the end, who was the one who did what he was going to do? And then everybody gets mad because they paid their money, but he did what he always does.
Yeah.
And so bottom line is, instead of pointing the finger that way,
Right.
you need to point the finger this way.
That's
I always equate it like this. You drive an Escalade truck, big truck, run up against a Volkswagen Bug. But then all of a sudden 18 wheelers coming down the road.
Right.
That now all of a sudden Escalade doesn't seem so big anymore. Well, that's the way in the sport of boxing is. As you just said, you may stick your chin out there for one guy, but there's certain guys you're not gonna take that punishment, especially if you don't have to. And
but and not to cut you off again, but especially with a guy like Floyd, I always tell people this about a fighter like a Floyd. You created that monster,
Absolutely,
the way it is, because Floyd can go out there and fight King Kong.
That's right.
And once he beats King Kong, you're gonna say, well, he didn't beat Godzilla.
Right, exactly.
That's right.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
That's right.
And so he's never going to be pleased. He's never going to please everybody anyway. So that's why he just does what he does.
Exactly.
He's always does what he does. And you get mad at him, but at the same time, you made that monster.
Exactly. And I wanted to make a point, to kind of add to what you said. And I think that things like the World Wrestling Federation and all of that nonsense kind of like added to it, is that professional boxing is dangerous.
It's tough.
You can lose your life. We have a friend, in common that died right here from Atlantic City, that died in the ring, and it's dangerous. This is not wrestling. This is serious business. And anybody that goes into the ring and fights for the fans in terms of, they're going to put their life on the line to make a fight exciting. You have to fight to win.
Yeah. And,
that's what Floyd Mayweather Jr. did throughout his career. He fought to win. And the art of boxing is to hit and not get hit. So we had to make that distinction for people that might be watching that don't understand that. And maybe we can clear that up for you.
But it's funny, Harris, is that people talk about that about boxing. He didn't land a blow, or he took these shots. But then when you come to football, people are saying you got the what is it called? TBC, whatever, about the concussion.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And they're worried these guys have helmets on.
Exactly.
Exactly. But then, and they hit each other, referee calls the fight. These guys, as you said before, physically out there fighting, they're landing punches on the guys' heads, and people want to see them take more blows.
Exactly.
Because why? It's a fight.
Right.
And people want to see a fight. They don't want to see a chess match.
Exactly.
They want to see a fight.
Exactly.
And I want to segue into that one, Rob, in this case, is that we got, and then talk about monsters and Godzilla and King Kong, but Manny Pacquiao, right? Still around. He's had probably 3 major fights, actually, at least I consider major. A lot of people thought when he lost to Horn, he'd be out of the way, then he came back and beat somebody else that was one side as well. And now he's in against, a guy that many people thought would be taking the place of Floyd Mayweather when Floyd retired from boxing, and Adrian Broner. So, I mean, now, is this a crossroads for Pacquiao fight? I mean, is it a fight for of the crossroads rather for Manny Pacquiao or for Adrian Broner?
Both basically. I mean, Pacquiao is, many people question like, why are you still fighting? What else do you have to prove? And there's so many theories as to why he still fights. One theory is that Manny is such a giving person, or he needs himself to be much. Well, needs money because he gives money away so much. I mean, there was a story I remember when they said some of the Filipino people hate Freddie Roach because they say that when Manny goes jogging, he goes one strip in the Philippines where he stops by and he gives everybody money, he gives everybody something, whatever. But when Freddie used to come to town and they used to train, Freddie used to shut it down because he says that all that was distracting to them, which means that aren't getting any money.
Yeah.
And Manny likes giving away money, but at the same time, I think Manny, there is going to come a time when he's going to realize that you can't save the world.
That's true.
And,
but he's a congressman, what is he, senator, congressman over there, right?
Yeah.
He's part of the. So I mean, basically, and we need more people like that even here, because to see the plight of what the people are here. I mean, if he sees the plight of his people, he grew up in a very poor. I remember back. I think right before the Barrera fight or someone, and at the time I was doing broadcast for HBO's international fights, and he told us about the situation. He grew up out there. He used to have to drink water out of the spring. That wasn't spring, but the water out of the ground. For his family, they cooked in this, and now he didn't have to do that anymore. And he even then thought about his people. So if you're going to pull for someone in the sport, then Manny Pacquiao is this guy that not only people here may pull it from, but people in the Philippines, as you said, because he's gonna keep running along the way handing out those dollar, whatever they call them, I forget the pesos over there in the Philippines. But at the same time, Adrian Broner is a guy. I think he called himself. I forget his nickname he had at one time. What was
Problem.
the problem? And then he became a problem because of the big fights at all. Now he is. If he beats Manny Pacquiao, has he beaten an older fighter who should have quit 3 years, 4 or 5 years ago, or is he still beating a fighter that many people consider still the top of the
Well,
game?
it all depends. I mean, if even though Pacquiao has that knockout loss to Marquez, which will go down in history as one of the biggest punches that you've ever seen. Even though he's Broner, it's just hard to say because you don't know what Broner's going to show up.
Mhm.
You know
That's
what
true.
I mean?
That's true.
You don't know what Broner's going to show up because, like as we spoke off air,
Mm-hmm.
Broner's a fighter who, you know, ever since he lost to
Porter?
Madonna. No,
Madonna.
Madonna.
Okay.
Ever since he lost to Madonna, he's going into a shell, and he hasn't been doing what actually got him to be Adrian Broner to begin with. You know, from a physical standpoint, because let's face it, what got Adrian Broner to be Adrian Broner is not only his skill, but also his verbal.
Right.
You
Exactly.
know, he has a gift of gab where he talks, you know, a lot, and that put him over a certain mark or whatever. So people know him from that angle, but there are so many people that Pacquiao have fought who they went in there with a game plan, but once they got hit by Manny, they went into a shell. That's what Broner has been doing since he's fought Madonna. And if anybody's able to bring that person out, it's going to be Manny Pacquiao.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but what I was saying is this: even though Pacquiao got knocked out by Marquez, if Broner stops Manny, it still would be a feat, I think.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I
You
still think.
you mean Marquez got knocked out by Pacquiao?
Huh?
You mean Marquez?
No, Marquez knocked out. No, Marquez. Marquez knocked out Pacquiao.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
okay.
no, no.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, he knocked him out. So what I'm saying is,
Flattened him.
even though he's been knocked out before,
Mhm.
meaning Pacquiao,
Mm-hmm.
it would still be a definite feather in Broner's cap if he Manny Pacquiao. I mean, especially because Manny, he people coming out and saying that he's not the same Manny, and that's true. But at the same time, I still think that he has enough with just some of the best out there.
Well, he's still shown his, his intensity in the ring. It's not like, 'cause, I mean, they robbed him in the Jeff. Again, we just had this, we're talking about these robberies again. But in the Horn fight, clearly people I thought he won 10 out of 12 of those rounds, but they didn't see it that way there. People said it was a bad decision.
Well, you know what happens? People start to compare. Horn loses to Pacquiao. I mean, Pacquiao loses the Horn.
Mhm.
Whether it's controversial or not, Pacquiao loses the Horn. And then all of a sudden, Horn goes and he loses to Crawford.
Right.
So immediately, Crawford has the ability to beat Pacquiao. Yes, he has the ability to beat Pacquiao, but just because he beat Horn it's not a showing that Crawford's going to beat a Pacquiao, even an older version of Manny Pacquiao. You know, we've seen many fights and time after time where that one punch changes the whole tide of a fight.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's right.
yeah.
You know,
Like the Marquez fight. I mean,
That's
you talk about that, but the knockout was Marquez and Pacquiao.
No, yeah, but I'm saying that changed it. That ended the fight.
Yeah.
But I'm saying sometimes a punch can change the tide of a fight. In other words, going there with the plan on being the aggressor. But once they got hit, apprehension comes in, and then they don't become the aggressor. They become actually too apprehensive, and they would go into survival mode.
What's the old Tyson thing? Tyson said everybody has a plan, and they go in and get punched in the face.
Taste that power.
They taste in the face. But now, in the case of, and I want to talk, because you brought his name up, because all of a sudden now, a few weeks ago, a couple of months ago, he was the flavor of the month, but he's kind of been pushed back now. And that's Crawford. His name just doesn't seem to be popping up now. Of course,
No, his name-
he's got. Well, I mean, he's got this fight coming up with. Well, no, actually, it's not him. It's the met Mikey Garcia and Errol Spencer's coming up now. Not to say, but I mean, and he was the flavor of the month. And I still think Crawford's a great fighter. But the problem that he's having is he hasn't driven the large numbers that people expect to be. And even with last night, they talked about it. They've been before last night. They had been talking about him moving up to these different ways to fight certain guys now. But then all of a sudden, with the changes that's taking place now, I don't see Crawford's name popping up too much anymore.
I see his name popping up. As a matter, Crawford. One thing that I actually thought was there was a certain sense of unfairness, and that is that yes, he did clean out the junior welterweight division,
Mm-hmm.
in which and he done that, did a brilliant job in doing that. But prior to him, coming up to welterweight, you had an Errol Spence, you had a Keith Thurman, you had all those guys, and now after he decided to go up and he beats Jeff Horn and things like that or whatever, now it's like, oh, none of those guys can beat Crawford, and it's like, what makes you think that Crawford is going to be such a shoo-in to beat an Errol Spence? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm not saying that he can't beat him, but to write it in stone, like, oh, Errol Spence, like, they have Crawford to the point where, like, Crawford is the man in the welterweight division. Like, nobody can beat him. And it's like, has he proven that much to me that he is a shoo-in to beat these guys? Like, no. I mean,
Well,
all of them have their talents, and all of them have their good points.
I liked him at 140, 35 and 40. I liked him that way. I'm like you. I'm just one of the ones who don't believe that a good little man is not supposed to be a good big man. That's just the way the game goes.
And make no mistake about it, Errol Spence is a good
big man.
Mhm.
That's it. And I see the same thing regarding this happening, and I could be wrong. But the other side of the table is you got a guy like Crawford, okay, who, as you said before, he did everything he's supposed to do and moving up now. But there's a list ahead of him. Thurman, as you just said, Spence, Thurman, and even Jacobs to the point. I mean, when you start talking about these names, there's a list ahead of him. And I'm not the one that's thoroughly convinced that Crawford at this point is good enough, big enough, strong enough to beat any of those guys. I don't see it. It could happen.
I no, like I said, I can, if he beats either one of those guys, would not shock me. I think probably more would shock me if like he just run through these guys, which they're trying to put him on that pedestal, and he's the king.
He's the all-time king, right?
And it's like, and that's sometimes where I feel like, Crawford is a good fighter. He's a very good fighter. Probably one of the pound for pound best, if not the pound for pound best. But let's not act as if not the pound for pound best. But let's not act as if like he can just run through an Errol Spence. That's something that I will probably argue with you to the end until that.
Until it actually happened.
Yeah.
And I've never been a fan of this pound for pound stuff myself. And I don't really get it. You got a guy that says that, as you just said before, Crawford cleaned out his division. Best junior welterweight, no doubt, correct? Everybody seems to think that, at least my opinion, that Errol Spence right now is, to me, he's shown it is the best welterweight. Now he's struggling one or two of his fights too, but top people think that he's the best welterweight. Now you look at Canelo at the 54 pound, but he just won the 168. Is he the best 168 because he beat Galak in 2 matches? In 2 matches, well, one was a draw and one was a draw, and everybody. And now again, is that decision thing you get to again? But is Canelo the best at this weight? Or is he, as you said before, is he the most popular? You may have said, but he's the most popular name right now, and he's carrying the sport of boxing.
I think it has something to do with popularity, but it also has something to do with. I mean, don't get it twisted. I think PBC is doing an excellent job. I think they're bringing boxing to
free television for one. Free television for one.
TV and people more. But making of stars, I do think that they still, are back a little bit in the sense of a Bob Arum, in the sense that even of a De La Hoya, because the job that De La Hoya, I mean, and De La Hoya has the same job that Bob Arum had with De La Hoya.
Yeah,
it was an easy,
easy job, very easy job
to promote these guys, whatever. Where PBC, you're trying to promote like a Charlo, where they're saying I'm good, but it's questionable because the fact that who have you faced? And I understand that plight and well, who you face, but like I also said in the case of like the Charlos and the and like a Canelo and Triple G, it's like, you can say Triple G and Canelo are the best, but the Charlos deserve their opportunity. The only thing that separates the today's somebodies and today's nobodies is an opportunity. If you don't get that opportunity, you can only sit back but so long and so far and say, oh, I'm the best. But it's like, okay, yeah, but then you bring in that Janet Jackson. Well, what have you done for me lately?
Exactly.
Yeah. And Rocky Fielding is not something that you've done anything good for boxing lately, because it is what it is. I mean, Rocky Fielding. If you want to impress me, there was another champion at 168 that you could afford. He could afford he could afford Charlo.
He could afford Charlo, yeah. I mean, he was there.
Better than Fielding.
Well, I think the WBC, and that's, to me, last night was the start. It was a calling card for somebody, and you see how good a job the PBC is doing, and it's great that it's on Fox News. On Fox Network, and I think that's great. I think the broadcast team could be a little bit better as well, because last night everybody was unsure. Everybody was, and this is, to me, if you're a fan, you're watching the show, and you can turn down the set. You can set because, and I can do it because we know what we're watching. And I say that in jest because some people really follow the sport of boxing. But I think a broadcast team that gets on a network, and just because this guy is who he is, he's a champion, but he's only the champion until the bell rings for the first round. The champion is available now. It's nobody.
That's true.
The belt is there. It doesn't belong to this. Just because this guy, it looks like, and then you got a broadcast team. This guy's doing this. Everybody's afraid to speak.
That kind of defeats the notion where people say you have to beat the champion.
Yeah. Yeah, right. The champion, that belt belongs to nobody once the bell rings. The WBC, the WBA is the owner of that belt, but the guy that's been fighting for that belt is not his for that 1 to 12 rounds or however long it knocks the guy out, of course. But I've always had an issue with this part. But now, before we get out of here and not talk about anything else and talk about greats, we got to talk about Anthony Joshua, because he's the odd man out, I guess. Odd man in, let's say it like that. Because everybody's talked about Tyson, Fury, and Wilder. And in the meantime, Anthony Joshua is the man that's on the other side of the water that's holding a belt that everybody wants to see one of these guys fights. Now, is it a thing of, now I'll ask you first, Harris and Rob, I'll let you close out, because you're attending these things, you're there, you're writing about them, and you as an IBF official at times, you're there. But is Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua a more attractive fight, or Anthony Wilder and Anthony Joshua a more attractive fight than Tyson Wilder in a rematch again?
I think so. I think that from a number of different standpoints, certainly business, you bring together the international community for a fight, that's, think about that, from that perspective. But I think that Joshua has proven himself to be formidable. And to me personally, Fury came kind of like out of nowhere. I may be wrong about that, but I didn't hear his name a lot, and then all of a sudden he was there. But Anthony Joshua was somebody that you heard about. You heard, his name was mentioned frequently.
Well, he beat Klitschko.
Exactly.
Both of them beat Klitschko.
Exactly.
Actually, yeah.
So I'm intrigued to see that matchup actually, and I think that from that perspective, I think it's a more attractive fight. But I'm really interested to hear what Rob has to say about.
Rob, you're the boxing. You're the guy that's there. You to the crowds. If we're fans, we're watching this on television, and we said, in fact, we want to see the boxing community needs this fight. What do you see?
I think both the fights would be attractive, and I think both fights would have a certain bit of excitement. Anthony Joshua, who he's by all accounts, the man will beat the man type thing. And he has all the belts, but Wilder has definitely put his name, stamp his name out there, and so, and that's one of the fights that people want to see. But Fury, like you said, but Fury's been out there. It's just that, one thing about what Fury and Joshua has done is that they've embraced the whole thing of, I'll mention the name again, they've embraced the Mayweather persona, if you will, where they realize that in order for you to be, you have in boxing, you're a star,
Right.
or you're a star.
Exactly.
And how you get to be this star is by, it's almost like self promotion.
Right.
There's other fights that, how many fights have you seen where, at the end of the fight, it's like, oh man, that was a great fight, or whatever. Those two fighters, Mayweather, Joshua, Wilder, who talks a lot now, they put themselves in the category now where it's like they don't just say, oh, that fight. They said that Wilder fight. The reason why is because they promoted themselves. They put themselves out there where, a promoter, it's the promoter's job to put you out there.
Right.
But let's face it, the ones who stand out, Adrian Broner, PBC didn't necessarily put him out there. Adrian Broner put himself out there.
Absolutely.
And whether you love him or hate him, they put him out there. You know what I mean? But, as far as like the attraction between those three, I think either fight would have a certain share of excitement. And also, I think Fury and actually either one over in England would be just, absolutely
huge.
It would be huge. But, over here, but because he's selling out stadiums.
90,000 people. Well, yeah, he's this concert. He's a super, like you say, he's a superstar there.
But at the same time, he still can't rest on his own laurels. He can't sit up here and say because people. I'm just wondering, like, when is it gonna die down? In other words, like, okay, everybody wants you to go back to Floyd again. You can fight this guy, but at some point in time, people are going to say, well, listen, okay, you're beating these guys, whatever, but we want you to fight him. You know what I mean? And that's, when is it going to get to that point with Joshua? He's able to, last night, Dylan White knocked out
Chisora. Yeah,
he knocked him out.
Flattened him out.
And after that, Joshua gets in the ring, he makes his speech, and he basically pushes for, a fight with White. And fine, because White, he scored an impressive knockout last night. But, after that, who are you going to fight? Joe Neckbone? You know what I mean? You know what I mean? No, they want you to fight either Fury or Wilder, period. You know what I mean? And how long are you going to be able to sit up here and do it? And it's the same thing with Canelo. Canelo can say, I'm the biggest man in boxing, and he has this big DAZN contract, but that DAZN contract is 11 fights. You mean to tell me Charlo? You mean to tell me Jacob? You mean to tell me one of them guys are not going to be one of those 11 opponents?
Even Golovkin again. Even Golovkin again.
Those guys got to be in there, not fielding, and not. I believe he's about to fight. I forgot who he's going to fight, but it's still not in the same category.
Joe Neckbone. Joe Neckbone.
So what I'm saying is, like, when are people going to pull his coat? Just like, other people's coats have been pulled in the past.
In the 11th fight, when the contract over with, that's when it takes place. But that's the good thing about the sport of boxing. It will forever be the barbershop. Wherever we are on the road, that everybody said this guy's that guy, this guy's better. But you know what? My thing is this, in closing, is that if we're going to give the people the fights that they want, let's make sure that we're getting the judges that sitting ringside to do these fights to get the best of what we're getting as well. And we don't always run into that same situation again where people can say, I'm never going to turn into another pay-per-view fight. I'm never going to do this because it's fixed. It's not going to happen. So just like you're going to give the best fights that's out there, let's give the best judges and everything else.
Yeah, to that point, before you can cut off, I just want to ask Rob one question. What do you think about possible oversight of professional boxing? And the reason why I ask is because I just want to lay out a scenario to show you from experience, a scenario that we dealt with, and that, I personally felt like if there was some type of oversight, then this wouldn't have occurred, and then there would have been retribution for it. Angelo gave us a fight one time against Tony on CBS. Remember that?
Yeah, I remember that.
And so obviously they didn't think we could beat, James or whatever. And he's very, very formidable in his own right. And he came to the fight out of shape, out of weight. And he, after weighing, didn't make weight and was training, right up until fight time and make weight. And everybody was saying James is on this and he's on that or whatever. So at the meeting we agreed to do testing after the fight, and they never tested us. So I'm wondering, we don't know whether James was tested. We weren't tested. They never came and tested us. We sat in the locker room for like 3 hours after the fight waiting for them to come and test us. They never tested us. We don't know whether they were tested. We could never find out. And, it was something that I was just kind of like, is that something that should be looked at in terms of, how the sport is really carrying itself, or is it something, in your opinion, Rob, that we just gotta kind of accept, kind of as a nuance in the sport?
Well, I mean, I think boxing is no different from just life in general. I don't care what it is, whether it's sex, whether it's race, whether you have good people, you have bad people.
Absolutely.
So you're gonna have bad people in boxing.
Absolutely.
So if anybody think that you're gonna have a squeaky clean sport, I mean, I think that we just, you're praying for something that's just not gonna happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I just think that, I do think that boxing, and it's been said for years, that boxing does need some sort of more control. My only thing is, over the years, when people have tried to grab a hold of that control, it's outside people that have been doing it. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's like
Not the boxing people.
not boxing people. And
Right.
when you don't have boxing people, that's when the sport definitely becomes watered down, and I think that's the negative thing that comes in.
Right.
Because there are a lot of people now, like over the years, that they've said that boxing is dead.
Right.
A lot of that happened from people who weren't real boxing people.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And I mean that from media to even from managers and so forth.
Yeah.
You're just in it because I come down on the media a lot, because the media will sit up and they'll jump ship and go to like MMA and stuff like that. And my thing to them was, if you could leave boxing that quickly, that means you were never a fan of the game.
That's right. That's right.
You know what I mean? And I just think that, every sport or whatever, I think needs grabbing the hold of, but I just think that my whole thing is, I just feel that it was more boxing people, and I don't even mean, like you said, fanatic. Now, I'm not talking about
I understand.
fans.
I understand.
I'm talking about people who know, because even in boxing, as well as I do, you got boxing is medical field. You have a doctor, a nurse, all kinds of whatever. It's broken down, but it's the medical field.
Mm-hmm.
Boxing can be broken down to managers, fighters, trainers, this, that, so forth.
Yeah.
And the thing about that I've always found, and I've been enough to have worked from different angles in the sport, whatever, and see how people work, and I see that this person, everybody thinks that they can do the next man's job.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Everybody thinks that they can be a better man.
That's right.
They think they can, and the whole thing is, some people don't know their lane.
That's right.
And they want to be a trainer, or they want to come down on this trainer as if they can do that job better.
Well, this has always been the problem with boxing. It's not changing anytime soon. Let's just say this is a towel. I walk in the gym with a guy and I do this. I'm a trainer.
Mm-hmm.
See?
Mm-hmm.
I go to the commission, fill out a sheet of paper, suit and tie, pay $500. I'm a manager, or $1,000 or whatever pay me. I'm a promoter. There's no criteria for being other than the boxer in this sport. In the NFL, you have to be able to spend $2 billion.
That's true.
In the NBA, you have to be able to spend $2 billion to buy a team. You have to have an organization around you so that they know you know how to run this team.
True.
Boxing doesn't have that.
True.
You know, there used to be a time that boxing would have big fights. And they would say, Joe Louis is going to be referee for this fight. All right? Former world heavyweight champion of the world, probably one of the greatest boxers ever. So Joe is your special referee. Larry Hazard has done a lot of fights, even when he became commissioner, because they wanted the best referee in this to be this fight. I would like to see boxing once. There's a major welterweight fight on. If they're not participating in it, let Keith Thurman, let John Porter, let name any one of the other 147 guys. Errol Spence. I'm just saying if they're not there, let them be the guest judge at the ringside. Let's see if we're getting what we're supposed to be getting.
Interesting.
Because there's there's something there when you have these three guys there. Yeah, they have a vested interest in it more than likely, but I do believe you can do no worse than the three judges that you got sitting there right now. That's giving you them horrible.
I will say this about the officials,
and you know a lot of them.
There's a lot of training that officials go through. I mean, there are a lot of techniques that officials have to learn in the sense of like I said, you could be at home, you can look at a fight, that's your angle. Certain judges are on different sides of the ring. They may hear thing that judge sees over there.
Right.
So it changes the whole mental dynamics or whatever. But I just think that not everybody, even a fighter, I think that he has a better chance of doing a good job. But at the same time, there is a difference in being a fighter and being a judge. There's a difference in being a fighter and being a referee. I mean, you had who was it? Walcott.
Yeah, Joe Walcott.
But he messed up.
Yeah.
In the fight, so just because you were a heavyweight champion before doesn't necessarily translate to you being a good referee.
Maybe not, but and I agree with you on that. But what I'm saying, if you want to add something to the sport to make it a little bit different, the NFL, and even in the broadcast, I'm going to go to the broadcast booth. They'll bring a basketball guy who comes on to talk about the sport of boxing, a football guy to talk about the sport of boxing. And he's giving he's there talking, and now I'm listening, he's screaming, this that. But you never see a boxing guy on ESPN talking about football or basketball. You don't see it. They don't do it. Why? They think they don't have the knowledge? Well, why not? They're watching the game just like you're watching a boxing match. Well, that's why I'm saying.
I'll go so far to say this. I mean, and I like bringing certain light to certain people or to just people in general, just let people be. But one thing I have to say is that it never ceases to amaze me every time I look at ESPN.
Stephen A. Smith, just say it. We know who it is. Stephen A. Smith is horrible.
Stephen A. Smith, a boxing commentator.
Yes.
Because it's so obvious. There's so many people who know more than other people, but then there's some people where you look back and you're like, he don't know a
damn thing.
But he was just talking about the guy who was on his show not knowing about basketball.
Yeah.
He was just talking about, from the same perspective.
This guy, and Monday morning, I'm telling you, if he wasn't on this morning already, but Monday he'll be on there, he and Max Kellerman, and he'll know, at least Max has been ringside at some fights, and I'm not a Max Kellerman fan. I think he knows even less than for a guy that's been around, but he's been there. These two guys, to me, are the worst. When it comes to that, I turn it off. When they start, I'm gone. Because these guys are horrible. I'm sorry, they're horrible.
But I'll take it from a different angle as well. I like Teddy Atlas. I respect Teddy Atlas. I think sometimes people like Teddy Atlas feels like they corner the market on opinion.
Oh yeah, well Teddy's the best in the business. Let him tell it.
Yeah, I'm not necessarily digging that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there's a difference in Teddy and Stephen A. Smith. Stephen A. Smith, like I said, I it's like clockwork. As soon as I see him and I look at him within the first few minutes, I'm thinking like, this dude don't know what he's talking about.
Not
I
at
mean,
all.
I want to quote the Roger Mayweather right now.
Yeah, but we can't say that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, you know,
But
yeah.
that, you know,
but that's what happened with these guys. They do them all. Fox Sports, ESPN, they all do the same thing. You know, they'll come on there and they go like, "Oh, this guy was horrible," and that's the worst for this. What you don't know what you're talking about. I'm sorry. You don't know what you're talking about. You don't know what you're talking about. That's the best way I can put it. I'm sorry. And
there's some that are better than others. Because like I said, this whole thing is a beauty contest, and there's some people that even us right now. There's some people that are going to get it.
yeah, they won't.
There's some people that we just rubbed the wrong way just now.
I hope so.
You know, but
Because I want them to understand what you are talking and what you're telling them. Because if they rub it, if they get it the wrong way, Rob, they never had it in the first place. I'm sorry, because in the 40 plus, I grew up in this sport, and I know what it's like, what a fighter's life is like every morning to get up and the thing that they have to go through and what they have to learn, how hard they have to work. And nothing upsets me more than I see a guy who comes on there talking about a sport, like I said, and I say this again, you've never seen Lennox Lewis, Mike Tyson. I don't know, maybe Floyd Mayweather. I don't know. You have where they come on, they may talk about the football, but they're never using their opinion to make a judgment, because people are going to say, "Oh, he's a boxer. He doesn't know about basketball."
Mhm.
But they don't say it about boxing, about basketball. People don't know a bone thing. They don't know about boxing.
Well, one thing I have to say is knowing both of y'all is that conversations go off camera, because you're not, like Stephen A. Smith has been really, really heavily accused of being the Carmelo Anthony, cheerleader, when you look at some of this tape on it, there's a case to be made for that. But I know, people like Rob and yourself, you're objective. So, you guys are getting, the real, you're getting what they're actually witnessing, actually seeing, rather than, some opinion that they have something to gain or to lose by saying, saying this or that. So,
well, Stephen A., you know more about basketball than I do. You probably do. I'm giving you that. That I give you. But when it comes to boxing, you don't know crap. Listen, it's been great. It's been a great time. It's going as it really flew by. Hopefully, the next time we come here again, I think we'll be back in on the Provide here pretty soon, as our schedule permits and with travel and everything else. But we're going to try to make it a lot more regular as we can, and we'll continue to bring you the words of boxing, the world of boxing. And you'll see Rob is always at the fight, so you get a chance to see him around as well. So hopefully we'll get a chance to see the fights you want to see. But at the same time, as I said again, let's make sure we got the people ringside that's calling these, that's judging these, doing the best that they can be. Again, thanks to Bagada. We're here in Atlantic City for letting us in this nice little room it is here. Rob, good to see you as always. Harris, and we'll see you in the future here on Provide at the fights.
Absolutely.